are here again live on YouTube and Rumble simultaneously. Going to throw some large lidded jars, 6 pounds to be exact. I learned something my last cycle of making pots. I learned something about the jars that I make. So yes, even after 32 years of making pots, I'm still learning new stuff, and so it's good. Learned that I've always had an issue with the tops of my lidded jars warping some, and so I decided that I would adjust kind of how and when I made the lids and when I put them on. And so last time I made large lidded jars, I actually threw the jars and I put them on my rack over here, and I wrapped the rack with plastic to keep them kind of like damp all night long, but not wet. And then I made the lids right after I made the jars, and I set those on the same rack, but those weren't covered with plastic, and those were able to air dry all night long, but not be too dry because I needed to trim those. So the next morning I came out here, those were ready to trim. I trimmed the lids and immediately put them on top of the jars, and that weight in the rim and the lid sitting on the rim of the jar, then when those started to dry, helped keep them from warping. So I thought that was really amazing, that I was able to kind of learn like I said, something new after 30 plus years of making pots, a way to kind of help keep my jars from warping. So I thought, and actually I think just about all the jars I made last time around, the 6 pound jars, all sold already, which is also kind of strange because they don't normally sell that quickly. But 2 of them were decorated like the one in the thumbnail with the slip decoration. And that actually seems to be a pretty big hit because I don't think I have any pots with that decoration left on them. They've all sold. So planning on making more jars and making more with that decoration. So anyway, so that's what we're doing today. So hello, everybody. Scarlett, welcome. And Brad and Pam, welcome. And hello to you all. So anyway, as always, if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer those and chat with you about whatever while we're throwing here. I've got at least 4 jars that I can make here with the clay I have prepped, and then making the lids. And so that's, like I said, I'm going to be making 6 pound jars. And I have set 2 stacks of like 3 pound clay balls that I'm going to be using because I usually center 3 pounds at a time when I'm making larger stuff. It just makes it easier. So anyway, so that's that. So how's everybody doing today? Are you all doing well? I know, well, it is at least East Coast time. It is like 20 after 6. So I'm assuming some people may be still working, but others are not. So if you're just kind of lurking, but and while you're working or something like that, that's totally fine. But hey, Jane, just what I need to see. You're talking about the jars, I'm assuming, right? Not me. Just joking. Anyway, Scarlett, hi from Australia. Well, welcome. You are, wow. So it is, let me guess, you're like 23 hours ahead, something like that? No, or 20, yeah, something like that. 20 some hours ahead of me, I believe, from Eastern time. So it would be like Wednesday at like 4 in the afternoon, something like that. Am I close? That would be 22 hours ahead, not 23. But anyhow, we're going to get to throwing, and then I will keep monitor on the chat and be happy, like I said, to chat with you all and answer questions and all that stuff. Hoping for some rain in southern Arizona. Pam, I'm sure there's a lot of the country hoping for rain. We actually had a little bit yesterday, and it kind of, or actually no, it was this morning, kind of saved me because I hadn't watered my garden yesterday. And I was like, I need to do it this morning, and then I didn't have to. So I'll still probably try to give it some more this afternoon. But Brad, it's hot today. I tried to do some work outside and had to go back in. Yep. But I had to get my ice cream the other day. but I did get my ice cream the other day. Well, good. I'm glad you got the soft serve since we were talking about that so many times. Shannon, hello from Washington State. Welcome, welcome. And Outpost Pottery from Waco, Texas. Hope you're doing well. It is Wednesday early morning. Okay, so not 22 hours ahead. So maybe I actually no, that's right. I think I had friends from New Zealand, and I think maybe they said 16 or 17 hours ahead. That's probably what it was. I'm trying to remember now how far ahead that it was. But so early morning Wednesday. Hey, buddy, from San Francisco. Yes, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to change the camera angle so you all can see a little closer view, but I'll still be able to see chat. Doesn't change anything for me. Well, Scarlett, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you got to catch it live. Until a little less than a week ago, I hadn't been very active on here because I had so many things going on outside of my pottery world that I wasn't really making any content of any kind. The one thing I meant to do is to put a little bit of slip underneath the bat before we started this. And when I go to pull this up, I didn't want the bat coming up off the wheel, but I forgot to do that, so we'll just leave this one the way it is, and if this one starts to come up a little bit, we'll do that before I make the next one. I definitely want to leave some thickness in the rim of this because it is going to be a lidded piece, and I don't want a really super thin rim for the lid to sit on. Doesn't have to be super thick, but I just definitely want to leave a little bit of thickness there for that. Basically trying to pull a nice tall cylinder, and then I'll shape from there. How did you do the claw pull? Well, I can explain it a little bit better when I do the next one. But I do basically, it's really the only pull I do pretty much predominantly with my left hand. So I do pinch between, I'm basically using my thumb, and I kind of grab it and I curl it up like this. And I'm using my right hand with water in the sponge to keep it wet while I do that. If you're still around when I get started on the next one, maybe I can move the camera around and try it from the other angle and show you. With that claw pull, I am trying to even out the clay a bit and also get the clay working toward the center of the wheel rather than just going out. And with it being that kind of low and thick, it kind of does help me to do that. With that pull, I did try to start moving out a little bit with the shape. Just about got out of camera range there, but it's probably going to get shorter from here, so that's as tall as it's probably going to get. Yeah, next one. All right. All right, well, that's probably a good shape there. Outpost pottery, you make it look so easy. Well, I appreciate that. I understand that, and I feel the same way. The things that Jeff, how much clay did I start with? This was 6 pounds. I feel the same way when I watch like musicians or people that do, even some other people that do pottery. I look at it, and I go, man, they make that look so easy. But I definitely love music is something that's not pottery related that I'm fascinated by, and I love. And when I watch musicians either play an instrument or sing, and I'm like, man, it looks so easy. But because of my background in pottery, I understand that. Um, yes, Brad, that's only 6 pounds. I'm sorry. But because of my pottery background, I realized that in a way it is easy. In the fact that to them it is easy now because they've spent so many years and so much time doing it that it's not necessarily hard anymore. But also the fact that what makes it easy is the thousands and thousands of hours that they spent doing it so that it could become easy, quote unquote easy, which doing the thousands and thousands of hours is not easy. So I guess there's the conundrum of the day is that it's easy for those who get to that point, but to get to that point is not easy. So I guess we're stuck debating the definition of easy, aren't we? All right, I'm going to use these calipers to measure the inside of this one because I would like to make all 4 jars with the same size opening. That way, when I go to make lids, I make all the lids the same size. But they don't have to be, but would make my job a little easier. One more thing that I'm going to do to this before I take it off the wheel is to torch the top of this with my small torch. Because I have found that when I go to take these off the wheel, the top tends to want to oval a little bit based on how the bat flexing when I lift it up. And so I've learned that by torching the top of this a little bit, that stiffens just the rim, and that allows me to remove it from the wheel and it not flex so much. About how tall would you say that is? Well, Brad, in just a second, I will measure and I will tell you. What is your shrink rate? I can only guess you are able to know how tall it will be from experience alone. Shannon, no, I mean, I know the general shrink rate of this clay. I don't know it specifically. And I'm not quite so worried about that, but it's somewhere around 12 to 14%. So it shrinks quite a lot. But yeah, unless I'm making something for a specific order, I'm not too worried about the size, shrink, how much it's going to shrink from start to finish. This is pre-shrinking right here. That's what the torch is doing. Pre-shrinking. It's like pre-shrunk cotton, right? All right, let's see. Except pre-shrunk cotton shrinks more when you wash it and dry it. I learned that just recently from experience. All right, so this one is about 11 and a half in height, and width-wise, we're probably looking at about 9.5 in width. You missed the flamethrower. Well, I have it. It's just not needed at this point. Although I have seen people using a different attachment for the top of one of these that was a bit more like my larger flamethrower that gives a wider flame, and I would like to get one of those because that would actually work better than that one that I have on that gas tank. So. All right, let me move this around to the other side. I'm hoping that maybe this can give some insight into the claw pull when I do this. And I am going to put a little bit of slip underneath my bat, help it stick a little more. The last one didn't come up too much, but I did, when I was pulling it, I did start to feel a little bit of like kind of it wanting to lift off the wheel head a little bit. All right, so I didn't even look at the name. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce that name, the one that was looking for the claw pull, but here we go. Well, I'm going to center it first, so that's going to take a couple minutes, but or at least a minute, I should say. It's me. I'm here. Okay, good. Yeah, I looked at the name and I'm like, like Pratyusha Reddy. That's probably butchering it, but all right. So they got the first 3 pounds centered. I like to get it rounded, kind of up to a point there, so I can throw the next one on. Also clean it off so when I throw the next one on, it doesn't splatter everywhere. Make sure the bottom of that one doesn't have any indentions, and try to throw it right on the top of that. All right, does anybody notice anything different about the way I centered this one and the last one? I noticed a difference just in the way that I did it, but I want to see if anybody else notices what I did different. There's the center. All right, first thing I do is I kind of undercut it. You see right there, I'm taking both of my hands and I kind of undercut it on both sides to give me a good spot for that claw pull. So the claw pull, my left hand goes like that around the clay ball, I'm going to pinch, and then I kind of roll that, but I got to keep it wet, so I get the sponge in this hand, so it kind of covers it up by having the sponge here, but I'm basically pinching together, and then I'm going to kind of like move that towards the center of the wheel as I'm doing it. I guess I didn't roll as much as I thought, but I'm pinched together. So there's the finishing motion. You can see where most of all the pressure was done there, and then this hand inside, I kind of it just kind of stays flat against the inside wall there. But I did move it towards the center so that I'm working inward and it's not flared out to begin with, because I know I want to make this tall. And most of my pulls on things that are 3 pounds and under, I do all with my fingertip on my right hand on the outside. But if I'm moving probably 4 pounds and above, I'll use my knuckle for at least one of the pulls. So this time I'm actually going to reach in here with my kind of that between these two knuckles on my index finger on my right hand, and I'm going to pull with that flat spot there. My thumb's also over here helping out a little bit as well. So that's the kind of position of my hand right there. So I'm pulling with this part of my index finger, and then my thumb, you can see my thumb was kind of also doing some work kind of right along that roll. It was kind of like this. So they were both kind of doing the work, and the sponge was just there to help wet it. Get some more water down inside and the outside. I'm going to do another pull with my knuckle. Yep, went off camera with that one. Kind of figured that was going to happen. Here we go. Let's change the camera angle. There we go. Look at that. All right, now I'm going to switch up my pull to using my fingertip on my right hand. Now that it's thinner, it gives me a bit more of a controlled pull, and I can kind of focus a bit more on kind of like really digging in and getting some of that clay from down here at the base, moving upward. Kind of dig in and push under and really create a roll there that I can then pull up. You're welcome for the explanation. Brad, you didn't catch it. You'll have to go back later and rewatch. Yeah. Let me adjust. Oh, if I can. My hands are wet. Let me adjust this if I can a little bit, because we're getting out of frame here. And I can't do it because my hands are wet. There we go. Someday, buddy. Buddy says, someday, my friend, someday. Well, I believe it, yes. Someday, I used to say the same thing, and I still do about some things within pottery and other areas. I'm like, hey, someday. That's pulled pretty well, but I want to start kind of shaping with this last pull. So I'm going to do one more pull, and I'm going to kind of focus on getting some more clay right out of the base, and then kind of pulling in the shape that I'm going to start going into once I do my shaping. You might have noticed those last two pulls, I really didn't go all the way through the top because I want to leave that thickness that's there. So I didn't want to pull through that and get rid of that. So now I'm actually going to go ahead and clean out the excess water that's in the bottom because I don't want that to keep soaking in. And I'm really not going to add any more water. This is kind of the freakiest part about the whole process. But over the years that I've been throwing, I've learned that just with the slip that's on the inside of the pot, kind of the slickness of all the water that I have put in, is enough for my hand to glide across to do the shaping. My forearm does quite a lot of work in this area as well because it kind of helps steady the rim as I'm doing these shapes. The forearm, and then whatever's at the rim at the point that I'm shaping is kind of leaned over touching the rim. And so that's why you can kind of see I have clay all the way from here all the way down. So when I'm all the way down in, this part of my forearm is touching the rim to keep it steady while I'm shaping. All right, now I'm going to form the foot by pushing in just above the bottom. So I leave a little clay there at the base that I can form the little roll out of to make the foot. I don't have to come back later and trim that. It's just already thrown in there. Okay, and just like the last one, I've got a nice belly from here kind of down, but I've got this area up here that's kind of like at an angle in this way, and I would really like that to be more rounded. But I kind of know from experience that if I try to round this on a shaping pull that's from the bottom up, it's going to be harder and the top's going to want to wobble versus if I actually shape that from the top going down. So I'm going to kind of start a shape that's going to, or like a shaping pulling down, kind of like I'm going to start up here and pushing out and moving my way downward to kind of match the shape that's already down here. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to move this down to try to help you see that. There we go. SD Waves, big fan of your work, Matt. Unrelated question. I'm curious if you have any helpful tips for your narrow neck vases. I keep struggling with buckling, midsection, and uneven neck thickness. Well, that's, we'll talk about that in a minute. How about that? So here I'm going to start by pushing out up here at the top. And then I'm still steadying the rim with the side of my hand or my arm. And I'm going to work that shape down. I've found that I think it just causes less stress on the rest of the pot to do that shaping from the top down rather than from the bottom up. And so I'm able to accomplish that bellowing of this area up here easier from the top down rather than from the bottom up. And so I've already got much skinnier here at the top of this one than the last one. But that's great because it's always easier to go out than it is to bring it back in. As we were just talking about with SD Waves there, anytime you want to bring a pot back in to make a skinny neck or just a small top, it can be very difficult. As far as making skinny necks on a vase or anything, I would guess that two issues. Number one, if you're having uneven thickness, it could be that you've pulled the walls a little uneven as you were pulling them, and or not leaving enough clay. I think that the buckling that I've ever experienced, and I definitely have, it's not like I never have pieces that buckle when I'm trying to close them in. The buckling that I experience comes from the clay not being thick enough. When you want to kind of close that neck in, you need to have a substantial amount of clay there to close that in without it buckling. But then I do a combination of like closing in and then pulling, because then you're making it even thicker when you close it in, and you don't want to just keep compounding that thickness. So you want to kind of like close it in and then pull up to get some of that thickness out, and then close in and pull up. Just depends on how much you accomplish in closing per time that you do it, how many times you have to do that to get it to where you want. I don't mind questions that are quote unquote unrelated. You don't have to ask questions about what I'm making right now. I'd be happy to answer them about whatever. Just doing some little decorative lines inside that. Oh, that one's now wider than the previous one. But now that it is, and I've already put those grooves in there, I don't know that I can push it back in much. I can. I'll just have to put the grooves back in the top part of it, which will be okay. There we go. That's more like it right there. And then we can come back and refresh those grooves. Oh no, my fingernail just hit it. Right there. See, you're not the only one that has your fingernail hit it when you are almost done. You just hope that it doesn't ruin it, right? And I got a little chunk of clay in the bottom. Get that out with my thumb. There we go. All right. And I don't have to clean any water out of the bottom because I did that earlier, and I don't really have to clean any water off the outside because my rib essentially did that while I was pulling. I am going to do the torch on the rim. I'll give you another measurement if you'd like to see if this one is similar to the last one. This one is only 11, so a half inch shorter, but a little bit wider, probably still around a 9.5. But and you can see now what I was talking about. I got all that clay from here all the way down my arm from throwing that. Yes, I do little goofs too. Yes, very much so. You know what? I think there it is. I think my tank might be running out of fuel, but I'm good for it at the moment. So if you weren't here, I'm torching the top of this so that when I remove it from the wheel, the bat will probably flex a little bit, and I don't want that to warp the top of this. I started out today talking about learning new things about my jars the last time I made them, which was just a few months ago. But I made a set of 4 jars. I've always had jars seem to want to warp as they're drying, or especially if I put decorative handles on them, they want to oval on the top. And so I thought, I wonder if I make the pots. And so what I did last time, I made the pots, I put them on this rack over here, and then I wrapped plastic around the around the rack overnight to kind of help them to not dry much, but just stiffen up a bit. And when I finished making the jars, I made the lids right away, and I set them on a shelf up here so that they could be in the air and air dry all night long, because I have to flip those over and trim those. And so that's what I did. I came in the next morning, the lids were perfect. I cut them off of the bat, flipped them over, or I trimmed them, cut them off the bat, flipped them over and trimmed them, and then put them back on. After I got the knobs and everything on them, I uncovered the jars, and they were still, soft, but not, damp. And I was able to put the lids right on the jars and let the jars dry the rest of the way with the lids sitting on top of them, which helped keep the shape of the jar, the top not ovaling, and it really helped the whole rest of the process. Yeah, I'm definitely running out of fuel. You can see it's wide open and it's barely coming out, but let's see if I have another tank over here. All right. It's good enough on that one, though. Are you going to carve on these too? Brad, no, I'm not going to carve on these. I would have to make them much thicker than I just did to carve on these. So that being 6 pounds, I'm sure you can imagine that's not thick enough to carve on. All right, let me see about another bottle for this. I have a backup bottle, so. Well, that's interesting. That is not. It is like slanted. Is my other one slanted? It is. I wonder if they make them that way on purpose, because it's definitely slanted. Either way. All right, we're back in business. There we go. Do you throw narrow neck vases primarily with grog clay bodies? SD Waves, sorry, I just saw that. No, I prefer making all of my pots out of smoother clays if I could. Just wood firing smoother clays usually does not work well. Most smooth clay bodies don't have, most of them, I should say. There are some. Most smooth clay bodies just don't have the ability to go to the higher temperatures, the intensity of a wood firing. So most of the clay that I throw has grog in it, but I personally love smooth clay bodies. I don't think I don't think that the smooth clay or the grog in the clay has as much to do with holding up the pot as you're throwing it. In my opinion, I've never noticed that it held up better than clays that were smooth. But that's coming from me, who I just, my years of throwing have made it so that, the ability for me to control the clay on a smoother clay body just probably really overcompensates for anything that the grog might help with. So I'm sure grog does help with that, but my ability to control the clay and control it even better with a smooth clay body really helps me more than the grog would, I think. So, do you like white raku clay? I have thrown raku clay before. The clay that I have thrown that was raku clay was like called Sold 860. I can't remember who made that clay, but it was very sandy. So it was very gritty, but it really stretched really well, and it did stand up really well. And it made pots really feel really light when you were finished. So that was kind of nice, but put it this way, I know a good clay body when I throw it. Because I've definitely thrown some that I'm like, I am not going to continue to throw that clay body if I can choose not to, because it just fights you the whole time, or this or that or the other, or makes pots feel heavy when they're finished, all kinds of things, reasons that I don't like certain clays. But yeah, exactly, on the grittiness, or on the what, or the fact that it makes pots feel light when they're done. The clay flexibility, more like a sculpture clay. Yeah. I haven't done raku in years, so last time I probably even threw raku clay, it wasn't for me. I was working for another potter that wanted some pots made for raku, and even that was probably 20 years ago at least. However, it could be mixed with other clay, I was told. Yeah, I mean, all clay of the same firing temperature could be mixed together. Um, so, or like in general, there could be some exceptions to that, but for the most part, all clays of the same maturing temperature could be blended together. There are a couple clays that are sold by Starworks where I get this Oka Medium that I'm throwing right now. There are two of their clays that they sell that I love. When you blend the two together, they throw really well. But I don't want to take the time to blend the two together myself, and I don't want to pay the fee for them to blend them together when they mix them. So I just use this one because I don't have to blend it. That other one throws really well. It looks really well in wood firing, but I either got to pay a considerable more amount of money for the clay for them to mix it, or I have to spend more of my time here in my studio to open bags of clay and blend the two together in my pug mill, which means running it through 2 or 3 times in my pug mill when I would only run it through, maybe once. So I have some really good news. Starting next month, sometime probably later next month, I should have some part-time help again in my studio. If any of you watched live streams of the firing or unloading, and you've seen the gentleman named Silas with the really cool mustache, he's just graduated college, and he's actually coming to be an apprentice of Ben Owen here in Seagrove. And but Ben is going to have him work with him like 3 days a week, which allows him some time to do other work. And so I think I'm going to have him at least 1 day a week here at my studio. So that's going to be really awesome. Do you run, Pam, do you run all your clay through the pug mill or just your reclaim? No, I run all my clay through the pug mill. Oh, Macy wants in. Give me a second. She's at the door yipping. Probably heard me talking. She's like, what is he doing in there? Yeah, even clay that comes out of the bag, you don't know how long it's been since they pugged it. And if it's been in that bag for 2 months, it might not be drastically drier on the outside than the inside, but it is going to be stiffer in parts and thicker and softer in other parts. So, Kevin, I think Matthew is the laziest potter in the best kind of way. If there is a way to make things more efficient, he has found it. Thank you, Kevin. I have never been called lazy in a nicer way. And you're not wrong. I have told many, many people that I'm ambitiously lazy, saying that I am willing to work really hard at certain points so that I can not work hard at other points. And that's kind of all about, you're right, finding the most efficient way to do things. Other people have said it better, like working smarter, not harder, all those kinds of things. So, Scarlet. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, y'all want to see Macy? Maybe when I finish this pot, how about that? I'll give y'all a Macy treat. I'll give y'all a Macy. Let you say hi to her once we're finished with this pot. Oh yeah, you can see her back there, can't you? This little tiny head back there. Yeah, nobody's at home today, so she's been hanging out with me. But earlier she was kind of like, every time I'd move, she'd act all like I was about to step on her. So I just let her outside, and so she's been out there hanging out for this afternoon. All right, I'm gonna do that shape from the top down now. Kind of bellow that out up here. And Kevin, I would agree with you. And actually, my whole workshop that I did earlier this year and the one I'm going to do in Florida next year are kind of all based around those ideas of working smarter, not harder, and the ways that I have learned those. And it really is a blending of the tradition that I started in in Seagrove, the very traditional way of making pots, and a very kind of like just grunt work of throwing thousands of pieces and then combining that with being smart and just finding, being allowing myself to be artistic is the other side of that coin, where I'm like taking all this efficiency that I learned and then um, allowing myself to slow down a little bit and be creative. But then I still get to be efficient while I'm being creative. So it's the best of both worlds. Yeah, you're right, Brad. She's looking at me like I'm nuts talking to myself. Yeah, well, now she's laying down. She's like, okay, he's just going to sit over there and talk to himself. So I guess I'm going to lay here because he's not talking to me. She only gets really jealous when I go out and see the chickens. And then she's really jealous that I'm out talking to some other animal other than her. So. Who are your favorite potters today, and who are the biggest influences on your style? That's a big question, SD Waves. Um, well, I have favorite potters for different reasons. Um, I'm not going to list them in any kind of order because I don't think that. Um, what does that T-shirt say? Having trouble reading it backwards. Oh, is it backwards? I think it just says United States of America since 1776, freedom, liberty, home of the brave. Yeah, it was just my 4th of July shirt that I got this year. All right, so some of my favorite potters in no particular order. I would say it is backwards, isn't it? That is funny. I guess probably there is an option for me to do a mirrored version or a non-mirrored version of the of what you're seeing, and I think that's where that change is. Anyway, back to some of my favorite potters in no particular order. The first one that came to mind would probably be Ben Owen. He's here in Seagrove. I admire him for his work, his knowledge in pottery. He's an amazing potter, but he's also one of the nicest people I've ever met. He'll help anybody and everybody. Probably nice to a fault, and so that's I really admire him for that. Like I said, his knowledge is off the charts of what he knows about clay and about pottery. Um, and also being one of the most well-known potters that I know personally, and he's such a nice guy because I know others that are really well known and they're kind of a bit more stuck up. Not that they're bad people, they're just a bit more full of ego, if you know what I mean. So he's one that's really well known, really accomplished, but also one of the nicest people I've ever met. So there's that. Let's see. Sally, thank you so much. Um, let's see. I definitely have influences from Mark Hewitt, and via himself, but I before I knew him, I knew a couple of his apprentices. I went to high school with Daniel Johnston, who became a very well-known, accomplished potter. I then fired with Joseph Sand, who was also an apprentice of Mark Hewitt's. I fired with him for like 5 years before I built my kiln, and Joseph was an amazing help to me. So the three of them and Mark Hewitt, and all of their work has definitely inspired and influenced what I do. Oh gosh, it's just there are so many to mention. There are several other potters here in Seagrove that I appreciate their style of work, and inspired by so much of it. Um, so it's hard to make a list, really. SD, I went to a Hinshu Lin workshop this last month, which was incredible. Well, if you went to his workshop, maybe he's the best. I need to start doing more of those, but I am doing some workshops. I'm just kind of trying to do them either close by to home right now, or being able to take my whole family with me where I go do them, because part of the reason I do what I do is because I'm not gonna I don't want to travel, away from my family for really any period of time. And so if I have to go do a workshop and I have to go by myself, that's not really my idea of the kind of lifestyle I want to have. Um, and so that kind of just, yeah. So the one I'm going to do in February, I'm going to take the whole family. And then as my kids get a little older, I would love it if I would have some more opportunities to travel and do workshops in other places that my wife and I could go and travel and see other places in the world, and have pottery be the connection that allowed me to go there and do a workshop, meet some really incredible people, and teach what I know, and then also be able to enjoy traveling some. So I don't have an RV right now to take the whole family. And nor would I want to, I don't think, in some instances, travel all the way across the country. Sally, come to Jamaica. Family welcome. Yeah, I appreciate that, Sally. I definitely, I know there's lots of places my family is welcome. Of course, it's the cost of getting us there. That's the big expense. So I've had invitations to lots of places, and I'm like, yeah, if I got to fly 5 people to another country, it gets quite expensive. So, and most workshops don't pay enough to compensate for 5 people traveling to another country. So, or maybe not even across the country in that instance. But you probably just mean for vacation, right, Sally? All right, I've got 2 more 3-pound clay balls here for 1 more jar, and then we'll make the lids. We're already an hour and 5 minutes in, but we'll get this one made, and we'll make the lids, and then cover these up, and we'll call it a day, at least for the live stream. And maybe tomorrow morning we'll come back and I'll trim the lids, put the knobs on them, and put them on the jars. Maybe we'll do that on live stream tomorrow morning. So. I think we need to have a YouTube potters conference where we get all the potters that are well known on YouTube to all come together and do a workshop. That'd be a lot of fun. Be like our own NSECA. YouTube NSECA. Wouldn't have to be YouTube necessarily, but you know what I mean. Even the ones with the egos. Question mark. Cable. That is a good question. Well, everybody has an ego. Just some people keep it in check better than others, and to be honest with you, I hope that I'm wise enough that I can handle somebody with an ego and realize that if they don't manage their ego the way that I would, it doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong. Is it my preference to be around people with egos that I don't think they manage them well? No, not at all. But I understand there are lots of reasons that different people are the way they are. Now, I would like that I would say the biggest challenge with doing something like I just mentioned would be part pottery, part WWF. Oh, that's hilarious. I think the biggest challenge with doing something like I said is that I think you have a lot of people that are well known from social media for pottery that don't know nearly as much as they ought to know to be as famous as they are. So we'll put it that way. That would be a lot of fun. Some potters would start stuff, and I'd be in the front row for that. Okay, let's see. Thanks for all the great answers. Would love to attend an MK workshop. Last question. Any advice for potters at the immediate stage looking to refine their work? Any production pottery wisdom? Oh, man. Well, SD Waves, where do you live, number one? So if I'm doing workshops or have the opportunity to do any, I can let you know. Which if I am doing any that are open to the public, I'm going to announce it on social media anyway. But I love how every YouTube potter has their own techniques and styles. It would be my dream to see a great pottery throwdown with all my favorites. Yeah, Kevin, that'd be awesome. Oh, you okay, Mason? Oh, did you get scared about something? She jumped up and ran over here. She's probably like, hey, you said you were going to show me to everybody. You're in San Diego. Yeah, I'd love to come to California and do some workshops. Never visited, but would definitely love to. But yeah, you're about as far as you can get. Going back to advice I would give to intermediate potters to refine your craft. That is a pretty difficult question to answer without talking, kind of live or in person with somebody. because there's probably a lot of specifics to that you'd like to know that would be hard to do over chat. And as bad as it is to say, there's some of those things that you're not going to learn until you just do it more. But the great thing is if you are getting instruction as you do it more, you'll be able to answer those questions quicker because you can't steer a parked car, if you know what I'm saying. So if you're moving, you're actually growing. Oh, sorry, we're out of the frame. If you're actively working enough to get better, and then you also have some good instruction, it will really help you because, an in-person workshop is just totally different because, especially if it's hands-on, because there are certain things that I can talk about here, but you can't stop me. Well, I mean, you can in some way and say, well, hey, what did you do right there? Because by the time I see the comment, it's a little late. Or the best thing is for somebody who's more experienced than you to watch you throw and then be like, well, hey, what about giving this a try? And then you get to try new things at the direction of somebody who's more experienced. Because some of it just can't be seen until you're either watching somebody throw in person or they're watching you throw in person, and then you get to adjust like that. So that's the major downside to YouTube instruction or social media instruction. There's a lot of good tips out there, but applying them to what your level is of ability is the hard part. Cable, I'm basically ranked newbie, but 2025 has me staring longingly at the first pot I'd ever thrown, remembering complete and utter peace more than anything else. Need to restart. You learned at Westside Y in Manhattan eons ago in the 1990s. Awesome. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know. That's right, Kevin. Having instruction goes a really long way. It does. Your first pot was a lidded jar, and it turned out better than it should have. Well, there you go. I used to have my first couple pieces I made in middle school, and I remember having them when I was still making pottery in high school. And I remember what they looked like, and one of them was one of those that you partially flopped, and you're like, oh, look, that's cool, it's art. And I kept it and glazed it and had it on my shelf in my room. And I don't know whatever happened to it, so I wish I still had that piece. I do have pieces that I made in high school, but I don't have those couple that I made in middle school. So I don't know where those ever went to. Hi, Lori. Not sure if that's a Lori that I know or if that's just a Lori on YouTube, but either way. It's a picture of a dog in there, but that's not one of the dogs that Lori that I know owns, so I don't know that that's her. Lori's a lady that keeps Macy when we're gone out of town, one of our local potters here. So she'd be somebody who probably would have a dog in her picture on YouTube, but was making matching sugar jar and creamer. Can't find the creamer. Oh, I know how you feel. It's like, oh. Yeah, massively thick. I understand, Cable. My lids never fit. Yeah, well, I can understand. This one is going to give me trouble, I think, in the end, because you can see there's a little bit of a hula to this one, and that's probably going to give me trouble throughout the drying process, but I'm not getting rid of it. It'll work. Lori in Washington State. Yeah, okay. You're not the Lori that I know here locally, but that's okay. You're in Harlem. All right. All right, let's torch the top of this one. Get it off the wheel. We'll let Macy say hi to you guys, and then we'll make some lids. I think I was paying a little bit too much attention to chat while making this one, and it got a little hula on me. Clay all over my leg. Yeah, cable knitter. I definitely fire my lids on my pots now. In the wood kiln, we have to put wads in between the lid and the pot, but we still fire them on the pot, and that does help keep them from warping too much to where they don't fit. And it saves space in the kiln for sure. All right, let me get a little bit of clay for the lids. So there are the jars right there. So got those, and then I'll move the shelf down so that it will be just above them. Um, And then what I'll do is just wrap plastic around that tonight, around the whole rack, and that will just get them to slow down and drying. Or I'll wrap it as soon as I finish making the lids. I'll put the lids right here. I'll wrap that shelf, and then the lids will be, or the jars will not dry a whole lot between now and tomorrow morning. I can trim the lids and then put the lids right on the pots. So that's the plan. Macy, you want to come say hi? Come here. Come here. Come here. People want to say hi. Oh, turn this way. There you go. There we go. There's the Macy cam. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Did he just have a bat on a bat? No, I didn't have a bat on a bat. I don't think. I have this fear of getting carried away with pottery, putting a giant kiln in the cellar, and burning the house down. That's funny. What are you so tired for? You haven't done anything today. Don't lick the clay off my arm. What are you going to do now? A whittle hot dog, that's right. All right, you can get down. All right, there we go. Not a wiener dog, yes. Where can I contribute to treats? Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Set up a dog treat donation button. Donate for treats for the dog. Yeah, I do need to buy some more of those. The only ones I found that she really could have were those little, I think it's Zooks, the little chicken treats. I haven't tried too many because she has stomach issues, probably like most dachshunds do. But yeah. Haven't bought any of those Zooks in a while, but I need to buy some. I think that's what they're called. All right, this is probably too much clay. I've got 2 pounds here. We'll make the first one out of this. And then if it's too much, I'll just cut some off of the next ones before I make them. So, but I do have my calipers set here. I mean, Lori, if you really wanted to donate for that, there is super chats enabled on YouTube, and I'll be glad to send that money to PetSmart to get her some treats. But don't feel pressured to do that. But I'm saying that is an option if you wanted to do that. Let's see. One thing about these calipers, if you don't know that sometimes this measurement here is not exactly what this measurement is here. So I'm going to measure from 1 inch to 6 3/8, so that's 5 3/8. And if I turn this around this way and I did that, I only get to, yeah, it's not off by much, but it's off just a little bit. So I'm going to spread that out just a little bit. It's a little bit tighter on this direction than this direction. So let's see. Does she have a kitten or puppy buddy? No, she does not. That's, yeah, she would love. That's one thing she loves about going to our sitter, is because she has a couple dogs, and so when we go away, she goes to the sitter and comes back sad that she doesn't have any pottery friend or puppy doggy friends at home. Oh, Lori, look at you! Thank you, super chatted $20 for some treats for Macy. So, all right, Macy, I guess we're gonna go buy treats. All right, I will get those, and next time we live stream, we'll give her treats for you, Lori. Thank you so much. Your shepherd is allergic to everything, so I understand the pain. Yes, Lori, yeah. We have to watch. I gave her some chicken last night that I was cutting up for chicken salad, and then she threw up a couple times last night and today. And so I don't know if it was the chicken, but it's like, man, that shouldn't bother her. But so, did I hear you say you were on Rumble? I looked for you and couldn't find your channel. Yeah, if you look up Matthew Kelly Pottery, it should be on there. I'm going to look it up right now on my phone. I'm going to search Matthew Kelly Pottery. Yep, right there. Yeah, and it shows I'm alive. Oh, there's an ad. But yeah, I found it. Let's see, skip that. Oh, another ad. Of course, right? And there we go. Wow, it's behind. There we go. I found it. So if you look up Matthew Kelly Pottery, it is on there. I'll give myself a thumbs up. How about that? There we go. All right. Avoid garlic or an onion if it's in the sauce. No, Scarlett, this was just straight grilled chicken that I didn't even add salt and pepper to. I just grilled it and then was cutting it up for my chicken salad that I made to eat today. So, all right, so this is 2 pounds, like I said, for the lids. The lids are made upside down and then turned over and trimmed, and the knobs added later. So I'm basically making like a shallow bowl. And then going to separate that thick part there for the, because all lidded pieces either have a gallery in the pot or a gallery in the lid, is like the way that I like to put it. This kind of lidded jar does not have a gallery in the pots that we just made, so the gallery has to be in the lid, which is what this is. So there's that one made so that I measured the calipers right down to the bottom edge of that. can see me or hear me because it was telling connection was lost. But so there is one of the lids. That's out of 2 pounds of clay, but obviously a lot of that will be trimmed away. So I think 2 pounds is about right. Okay, but we're back, I guess, Brad. That's good to know. I have full signal here, so I don't know what's going on with that, but came up when you searched, but when you logged in to follow, it disappeared. Yeah. I'm not popular enough on Rumble to like have it stay there. You got to really search hard to find me, right? No, I just I'm using a live streaming software to stream to multiple platforms at the same time, but the free version only allows you to stream to like 2 platforms, and for some reason I can't pick Facebook as the other platform, which I probably would have picked because of my following on there. But so, and if I decide I want to pay for the service, then I could stream to Facebook as well. But so I just picked Rumble because I did have all of my content uploaded there already, or I do have. My library that was on YouTube has also been kind of also logged on Rumble, just to have another place to have all of my content. You never know what would happen with YouTube. So, not saying they're going anywhere, but maybe some reason they decide they don't like me and they want to stop carrying my content, and just thought I'd be nice to have another location. So yeah, so these will sit on the pot like that. Yep. So I should make more than 4, but I think more than let's see. I'm gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna move this out here. Give y'all another angle out there. It was 6 pounds for the jar, Crystal. Are these commissions? No, I most of my work is not commissions. I do commission work. I'm happy to do that if somebody has something specific they want me to make. But most of the work I make is just things that either I want to make or things that I want to make that I think will sell. I mean, that's pretty much everything I make. I'm hoping, obviously, as doing it for a living, I'm hoping that I make something that I want to make that will also sell. Obviously, some things are just experimental, like you get an idea and want to try something and see how well it works when you make it. See if the whole idea goes as well as you want it to. Brad, you never thought to ask, but does Danielle make pottery at all? She knows how. She doesn't normally make any. She just recently commented. The last thing she made some jewelry, and she just commented today about wanting to make some for this next wood firing, and also wanting to help help me with some ornaments as well. We've worked with our local hospice we've worked with them for the last like 6-7 years, doing a special ornament for them that they sell as a fundraiser. And so they usually sell somewhere between 500 and 1,000 ornaments each year for that fundraiser. And so we kind of need to get started on those soon because it's already July. It's already July's almost over. So. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, I mean, I did pay attention quite a lot when I worked for other potters to see the things that they made that did sell well. Obviously, I knew what sold well because it's the things they asked me to make more often. But I've said this countless times. When I decided to make work for myself, I kind of made myself a deal that if I could afford it, I wouldn't make things that I didn't want to make or that I didn't like just because I know they would sell. But I'm not above it. So if it gets to a point where like, hey, I really need to sell some pots. I mean, not that I like have some secret that I know if I make this, it will 100% sell. But I could take more commissions, or I could take, commission work from galleries or wholesalers. It's not what I prefer to do, but if I had to do it to make a living, I would, because I'm not above that. But if I can choose to, I'd rather just make the things that I want to make, that I enjoy making, if those will sell and earn me a living. Yeah, Brad, hospice is amazing. I have a good friend, him and his wife. I'm good friends with both of them, but she is a hospice nurse, and at our local hospice. And so, and I've been working closely with the director of hospice for our hospice. So there's actually 2 hospices that are kind of like working as a unit now in our area. And so they both obviously do amazing work, but they both kind of go in together for the ornaments that we make that they sell as a fundraiser. And so, yeah, our pottery community here has always been close knit with our hospice, and they do a fundraiser in like the fall of the year every year where they do like sell food, and then they also do an auction, a pottery auction usually. I mean, there's more than pottery there, but most of it's pottery. And our local community of potters has always stepped up really well to support that and donate lots of really nice pieces to them for that auction. So, anyhow, Well, there we have it. As far as the 4 jars and 4 lids, they're done. Like I said, we'll wrap that rack, the bottom portion of it, with plastic so that those bottom ones will be covered for the night and not dry out too much. The lids will stay out in the open, and then I will trim those tomorrow and put knobs on them. I'll try to see if I can get the live stream going to do that on the live stream. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah, cabinet or cable knitter. Sorry, there was a New York City potter who got a restaurant commission for matching sets of plates, bowls, other dinnerware, but seemed to regret the mass production aspect of it. The money was reportedly outrageous, though. Yeah, I definitely have done a little bit of that. Obviously, for years I threw lots of production. There is a one local restaurant that I have that uses my dinnerware to serve on. She just reached out to me and needs some more plates. And so I got to do those. But yeah, I don't mind that. But yeah, for most potters, they don't want to do mass production commissions, and I get it. So just depends to me if the order. Now there are some orders I get that are like, oh, that's exciting, and others I get, and I'm like, I don't really want to make that, but I'll take the order because I can do it, and it provides for my family. So anyhow. All right, we are an hour and 43 minutes in, so that it is 8 o'clock East Coast time, and I think PetSmart may be closed. If not, Macy and I will run to PetSmart and get her some treats, and if not, I'll do it tomorrow, and let her know that Lori provided money for her to get new treats. So thank you again, Lori, for that. As always, I appreciate all of you for your support, wherever it is, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or Rumble, or if you're a patron of mine on Patreon. All of those are very appreciated, and thankful for all the support. And hope you guys are enjoying the live streams recently. And one of these days, I'll get myself together enough that I make an actual edited video that goes up. Those probably actually do more for me financially than the live streams do, but I have to do editing then, and I don't really want to do that right now. So anyhow, all right, hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Do you have any more questions, anything that you would like to know or need to know before we sign off? Thank you, Scarlett. I appreciate it. I'm glad you were able to watch from Australia. That's the great thing about this, is that people are all over the world. So you're welcome, Pam. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here. All right, I'll cover this rack with plastic, and we'll be well, good, Lori. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll show you guys how we do the lids tomorrow. Thanks, Eve. It's good to be back. I enjoyed my break for sure. I was away from pottery and from just about all things social media for a little while. That was good. So, all right, you guys have a great evening, or just the start of your day for Scarlett. She's it's mid-morning now for her. So anyway, all right, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you so much.